Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cammy Goes Keto, where I'm working on transitioning from the standard American diet to a ketogenic lifestyle. And really been on this journey for like 2.5 years now, working on this. And shortly into it, I realized I was addicted to sugar and I needed to pull off of anything sweet. Unfortunately, that means, well, not unfortunately, I'm just going to say that means anything sweet. I can have a little bit of blueberries and a little bit of green apples, and that's about it. So I have Mike Collins here, the sugardetox.com guy, sugar-free man. He's absolutely wonderful. He's helping me with my journey. And in this program today, we're going to do a little bit of discussions and a little bit of coaching for me around my issues and what's going on with me along my journey. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here with me.
Always a pleasure, Dr. Cammy. Always a pleasure. It's one of the highlights of my week. So
Oh, how sweet. Such a nice thing to say. I appreciate that. I look forward to doing these things too. And it's a little bit scary for me sometimes because I have to be vulnerable and I have to, share things that I might not want to share or that I don't want to share because, sometimes the truth hurts and reality sucks, but it is what it is. And that's how I get better. And this I channel, I think really helps me be accountable to my growth and my journey. And so, I think twice about going on this, video with you and having to share whatever it is that, I managed to pull off. But I did want to say that I spent 3 days with some of our sugar addiction people out in Desert Hot Springs. It was really fun. And we went and hung out in the mineral pools and we ate together and we shared and we had a really great time. And I did not eat any off plan items for me. I didn't really have a food plan while I was there, but my Cynthia, who was my hotel buddy and my driving buddy there and to and from San Diego, about a 2-hour drive, we planned a lot of our food together, and she brought food and I brought food, and we ate breakfast and lunch pretty much the whole time, and maybe even some dinner because we really only went out to dinner once on Thursday night with everybody, but we ate most of our food in our hotel room and we ate like queens. We had beautiful food and we had a lot of protein. We had hard boiled eggs and we had steak and corned beef and celery with cream cheese and avocados for our fat and lots of really good, healthy eating. And so I'm looking forward actually to getting on the scale this Saturday when I weigh in with Jeff. But one of the things that I realized when I was on this trip with everybody, when we all went out to eat together on Thursday, was that I realized that my back door is now closed. And, what I mean by that is that, pretty much ever since I sobered up in 2000, I always had this back door that was kind of wide open when I first sobered up, which was, hey, instead of drinking, go eat sugar. You want to drink, you want to, you need to escape reality, you want to numb out. Okay, well, that's not acceptable anymore. Go eat some sugar. And so whenever I got under stress and things, that's what I would do. And so now I've been trying to kind of close that door and close that door and close that door. And over the last 2.5 years, when I've been really working hard on it, I got it open to just like this crack, like just a little crack that I could see the light and that would allow me like just enough to kind of, wiggle through and, get whatever done I needed to get done for this numbing out and, checking out. And so this last time that I was off plan eating for 5 days or something when my son came into town, I realized that I don't want that crack open anymore. I'm working too hard. I'm just working too hard at all of these things and pulling out all the stops to have that crack be open. So that door has been closed. And then that set forth a mindset of like, I'm part of the no matter what club. So no matter what, I'm not having the sugar and the flour in my life. And I'm not, drinking whatever beverage that's out there with the caffeine in it that you can kind of get away with because it doesn't have real sugar in it. Well, it has something sweet, and anything sweet just tips me off. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am, and it's exciting. It's kind of scary. It's nerve-wracking. But, I went on this trip and other people were making choices that I did not make as far as, being on that little edge or eating something that you can just, justify or whatever one way or another. I just didn't go there. And so that made me feel really good, and that's kinda where I am in my journey right now, and I'm just hoping and praying that I can do it one day at a time and watch the scale change. I'm hoping for that seems to be the last thing to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before and, before we came on and we've talked about it before. And, the common phrase or the colloquial phrase is that addicts always have a back door and slips are planned and all that kind of thought process. And, we said, I complimented before, the most important thing you're saying here is that the back door is closed. And it goes by a lot of words or a lot of ideas. This wiggle room. You and I have talked a lot about the sneaking. There's a little bit of a jazz from sneaking stuff or being sneak
Sure.
to get food or get whatever, and get sugar, and then the unconscious rumble, the unconscious knowing that that back door is open. That there is a possibility sometime, you don't know when, and yours over the time we've been together with this is there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes it's 20 days, sometimes it's 2 or 3 months. And I think that it just genuinely, and this is the hard part for most people to grasp, it takes time. It takes all of those relapses, those slips to get you to close that damn door, to get you behind to so that you are this is no longer my food. You don't think of it that way anymore. And I really like this. I have worked too damn hard. I have and working hard, I don't know, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but the relapses are a lot harder work than the abstinence itself, right? I feel like it's like, damn, the amount of shame you have to carry, the amount of even physical feelings that where you're not feeling so great after binge or whatever. And it's just so much um the process is so I don't want to scare people off and say that it takes forever, but it takes what it takes. And I know that sounds really kind of whatever, I don't know, but it does. It takes whatever it takes, but it does work if you just don't stop. You just keep coming back to the meeting or the therapist or the process. And you talked about living in process and you had drawn a parallel to when you get here. And you also said something that was really interesting is that, and we weigh this with the idea of the one day at a time kind of thing, which is a great construct, but at some level, there has to be an acceptance that this is who I am. This is the new me. This is how I get along in the world. And it doesn't include sugar and flour. And living in process is just, it's an author that we like is Ann Wilson Shaft. And it's a process that is basically you're learning the things that sugar did for you, which is self-soothe and make you feel a little bit better and numb out a little bit. You have to learn other ways to do that. And those processes are time consuming. They take effort. It's that brings us back to that construct of effort-based dopamine versus substance-based dopamine. There is some work involved to make yourself feel a little bit better, to handle everyday anxiety and stress, handle older trauma that might be coming up or process things you're working through. So there's a little bit of work involved. And most people, and I never loved the 12-step phrase, the easier, softer way, where drinking was the easier, softer way. But sugar truly is the easier, softer way when it comes to self-soothing. And so this is you know, a big day for Dr. Cammy gang that the door is freaking closed. And it's just, now we've got to get some sealant on the damn thing. We've got to like nails, the bring out the nails. So literally you can't access the door. You can't go through it. Make it waterproof and nail it shut through the frame.
Super glue and 12 feet of concrete and
And then it really does become live in the process or suffer more, because this is not a suffer more program. This is a learn how not to suffer more by learning processes that do what the sugar used to do, right? What the sugar's job was. When it did, don't make no mistake about it, it did have a damn job. And that job was to soothe you just enough to block out whatever you're worried about at the time or whatever's going on with you at the time, whatever emotion's coming up. And it's no fault of your own. It happened over since probably the womb, but definitely since you were a kid. So don't, when you get to that closed door place a lot of you listening, you might be there now or think you're there now because Cammy thought she was there a couple times, but sometimes the learning moment is the few times where you sneak out the door and you don't like it and you have to come back. And I guess what
Yeah,
I'm
with your tail between your legs on a YouTube channel and with shame and guilt and say, wow, look what I did again, but I know I'm not alone in that.
You're not alone, and that's why the bravery required to be doing this on a YouTube channel, with the it just out there for the world to access is so amazing, and I've said it many times that the people are gonna look back on this because 'cause I've followed this industry for decades, and I have never seen this type of, real life processing live with other people watching. Right? Where it's not a perfectly straight line, where there's ups and downs.
Yeah, yeah. So very cool. I wanted to go back about how you said, because I have a, okay, so now that the door is closed, I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to go forward. Like,
Mm,
what's the easiest way, right? The lazy man's way, or the easiest way, or the one that has the least amount of pain, or whatever. And so, like in the past, when certain things would come up, my question for you, or my comment, I guess, is kind of like in the past when things would come up that I would go and eat over to soothe myself for whatever emotional reason or physical or whatever, looking for that dopamine. Okay, so then the door closes, then you start really looking at healthier ways and, different options that you have to recover to go through life and to respond to whatever it is that's happening in your life, whatever stressor is there. And then you learn, right? Because you think, oh, look, this time I did this, which was healthy. I took a bath. I called somebody. I laid down for 10 minutes on my bed. I did this. So you start to get your little toolbox. You pull out all of your little tools and start using them. So then my question is, and my hope is that it gets easier, right? Because you get more experience under your belt, so to speak, where you are doing something that's nourishing for yourself, that's good for your soul, that helps your body physically, that soothes you emotionally. And then those things become more natural.
second nature, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about that is, and this is I don't wanna scare anyone off or you, is that it does become more difficult before it becomes easier. And what that means simply is, like, just picture yourself learning to play tennis, right? And or anything, any skill, anything you wanna learn is that you're going to be bad before you're good, you know? And to handle because we do have tools and you have a lot of, we have tools to handle what we're talking about without the sugar. It's just that we've never them in a process in a way that is uh, unconscious or happens with regularity, right? It's not in our it wasn't in our past set of circumstances or set of the way that we dealt with stuff. And so now we just have to make it second nature. We have to make it so that when we're frustrated and pissed off and, angry at the world or shameful or whatever the feeling is that you want to numb out, you're out walking the dog or you're going to yoga or you're going to weightlifting or you're calling a friend or you're doing all the tools. We all have them. And they sound like they're, I don't know, fluffy or woo-wooey, but they're not. They work. They work and they change who you are. I was saying that your affect is very different from after the trip because I just think the actual physical getting together with our head coach, our community manager, and a couple of other people who are in different places in their recovery, just to see and just to be with and just to serve. And yes, the Zoom meetings are wonderful, but there is a magic that happens in that type of, tight group of people who are moving in the same direction kind of things. I applaud you in that, and again, it truly changed your affect. It's like there's a positivity, there's a it really does. It works, let alone 5 days of it or 3 days of it, whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I'm not so thrilled to hear that it gets worse before it gets better, because I do feel like I'm at the beginning of the door closing part of my journey. But, I'm not surprised about that, right? And my mom had a saying that I've used throughout my life, and it's so helpful. And the saying is, it's the surprises in life that get you. And it's so true because, like, when my son was 14, no, I think he was 15, and threw an underage drinking party at my house on the last Friday of the summer when he knew I'd be at the hospital for a 12-hour shift. And the cops called me and said, "Are you aware your son's doing this?" I'm like, "No." So my colleague had to come to the hospital so I could go take care of my son. I hung up the phone and I was fuming. And then I thought, wait a minute. Am I surprised that my son did this? And the answer, knowing my son, was no. And so then after I realized that, I was just not upset. I mean, I was upset, but I wasn't fuming. You know what I mean? It put it such in perspective. And so that's a really good saying. And the fact that it's going to get a little harder before it gets better is, I'm not surprised about that. But I'm really looking forward to what you said. I liked how you said healthy soothing becomes second nature. And, I think about that. I'm like, wow, when I need to be soothed, I can figure out, 10 different things to do that are going to be healthy. And not only can I think about them, I can pull them off. And not only can I pull some of those off, I can be really grateful and happy. And it can be easy to pull those off. Okay. So the reality is, that I think that that's what, 18 to 24 months away. I mean, it's going to take
Well,
time.
I was mentioning the hard gets hard before it gets better. For you and for a lot of people, we've talked about this intermittent rewards and the irregularity of when you would fall off, right? And so yours is might be pink cloudish for a while. And for people that don't know what a pink cloud is, it's where you feel this euphoria of, 20 days or whatever, where your body feels better and then you're feeling successful that you did it, but they don't last. So it's those times where now the stress is compiling, or it's in a place that you've never really handled this stress without sugar, whatever that stress is, or whatever that memory is, or whatever that relationship is. You end up now you're in it, even though you had a really good time for a couple of months, even or more, and now you got to handle it. And that's when you need to really double down on all your tools, your friends and your exercise and your nutrition and your rest and all of that kind of stuff. You've got to really double down, and you've got to be very conscious of it. I think more than anything, it's the raising to consciousness that you, and this is part of living in process, this is living in process, is that I am aware that I'm stressed, because a lot of people, they don't even get the little bit of, and I'll equate it to hunger. They don't even get the little bit of hunger pang before they're eating something, right? Same thing here. I don't even get the little bit of stress. I get just the inkling that I might be getting a little bit of stress, and I use, right? You got to like get into the stress, realize it, start to sort it out in a holistic and correct way without using the substance, right? Maybe it's something bad, disastrous, whatever. You've never done bad and disastrous without sugar. I'm not saying you, but you know, most people have never done bad and disastrous or heavy stress or whatever without some kind of soothing that's substance based. And so you really have to be aware that that's what's happening, because the unconscious nature of the training that we did for decades was, well, I can feel this beginning and don't even not going to get into it. I'm just going to use and not even, just glide right through it, or think you're gliding right through it. Doesn't solve anything, but it does make you feel better. So it's a hard one. I mean, it really, a lot of times other people know better than you about your own what's going on with you, right? If you're honest, if you're open. And I think maybe what this weekend provided for you is that window of letting those people know you, that they do know you. They maybe, just casual conversations, talking with them about what's going on with them and what's going on with you, right? You with some experienced people whose struggles, believe me, I've lived the struggle of every single one of them, and they were exactly like you. And so they can see it in you and help you, and want to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is important reaching out in the community and the group meetings and all those things that we do to help everybody get support. But I have to tell you that sometimes I'm alone in my thinking and my feelings and my reactions. And like the other day, for example, I was at the gym and this new woman came in who normally works out at the other gym, but she came to my gym at session in the morning. It's a group session, so whoever shows up can do their little 15-minute weight resistance training together. And she was really fit. Well, she wasn't really fit, but she was as strong as I was. And I noticed that she was like, leg pressing as much as I could do because normally I'm the strongest girl in the class. And she was also younger than I was, but she had muscles. She had arm muscles and leg muscles like I do. And I was comparing and judging myself just constantly, just looking at her and going, "Oh, look at her. She just leg pressed 450. That's what I do. Look at her. Oh, my face is prettier. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that." And I just caught myself doing this and I just had to laugh. Like I just kind of stepped back and I said, "Okay, red lights, the sirens went off. Woo, this is what this is something you have to address, Cammy, because this can tip you off. This can have you want to go and try to open the door again, like go to the door and try to wedge it open because I'm feeling threatened a little bit about this person that came into the gym." And she was very nice, and this is just all this crazy stuff that goes on in my head. But I noticed it and I saw it and I addressed it right away so that I didn't even have the physical cravings or like in the past, I used to have those feelings and I would salivate. I would actually start salivating, thinking about, I need sugar. I need something, I need to get some relief. And now that doesn't happen anymore. So I'm really happy about that. Sometimes when I see something or smell something, the smell, will bring that back for just a few seconds. Yeah, I was really pleased how I saw that this was going on. I just observed it and it all happened internally, right? And I just smiled to myself and just thought, yeah, you're okay the way you are. Don't judge and compare. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about just do the best you can and work on growing in a little bit every day. And that's what I really like to work on is how do I get healthier emotionally and mentally and physically and spiritually? How do I work on all those things so that I can be my best version so that I can ultimately go out and be of service to other people in my best capacity? That's what I really like to try to do.
Cool. No, I mean, I think that's a real good assessment, a very, this is the right word, sober assessment of where you are and what's going on, which is what we're looking for. We're looking for you to realistically assess all of the processes and tips and tricks and needs to make this a success. So, and I think you're doing it. So I think that's awesome. One thing about your recovery is that you're just super honest, and you're super honest with yourself, and you have to incorporate that into the process earlier, right? Earlier than, when you're on the verge of a binge or whatever. You kind of move to the soothing part of that honesty, where, just like you just said, you know where you're at. You're that time and that place and space that you can feel your. I mean, one of the things about the rebounding stuff is like it's so good for balance because you get to understand where you are, your whole body in space, the up and down. And this is the kind of whole body experience and emotional experience of where you are with what we've all talked about, that intellectually. It's not something a mystery or magic to you. Now it's bringing it to the conscious level and then kind of getting that balance in space and time where you're aware of it, you can act on it, living in process, right? And that's diluted or obfuscated by substances. It wants it, it helps it. It's the I'm getting to like this more as the everybody remembers the easy button from Staples. It's the easy button, you know? The easier, softer way they called it in the 12-step program, right? The easier, softer way is to push the easy button, ingest the subject, and not have to think about it, work through it, get the soothing in another way, all that kinda process that we're attempting to make second nature. Because once it's second nature, it's not like it's work now, but once it's just second nature, it's second nature. You do it anyway. It's like you. That's well, it's just like eating something was you. Now going to the gym is you, and whatever it is you're doing.
So, are you in second nature now? Because you've been sober and abstinent for decades. I
I
mean,
mean,
just
I think it's for me, it's beyond second nature. It's not even a thing. You know? It's not even a thing. It's like I there is no in the last decade, or maybe 2, probably 2 decades, the idea that I would eat sugar or flour has never even crossed my mind. Like, it's not like I have to put any effort into it at all. There's no effort, none, 0.
were you like me before that happened? Like, were you like self-soothing through sugar and flour and using it, in a lot of ways, using it a lot to cope?
I've talked about the story before. It took me 3 years to get off sugar, flour, and caffeine. 3 years, back and forth. Where I had that same free rented in my head of
The
should I
door was open, the door was open.
open the crack, you know? I tell the story that I used to put 2 Tylenol in my I owned this little drive-through convenience store, and we sold whatever, soda and beer and all that kinda stuff, and it was hot, and that's why I wore shorts, and I put the 2 Tylenol in my shorts pocket, and literally, there was a yellow stain where those 2 Tylenol is because I was trying to quit caffeine at the time and get to 4 o'clock. I didn't eat the Tylenol, I just drank the caffeine, you know? And, but that went on for, like I said, years, back and forth, sugar, flour, caffeine, blah, 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 like a big circle, just back and forth. And it was always a negotiation with myself. It was always a devil on one shoulder, an angel on the other shoulder. Have a little chat, you know, should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? And back then, I wasn't as aware that I was just coming out of, you know, growing up with kind of what do they call it? Long-term trauma. They got a name for it. Complex trauma. I didn't realize that back then, but that's what was happening. But I was also staying sober, so there was a lot going on that I needed to numb. Yeah, it took a long time. It would take a long time. We endeavor, with what we do and you're doing now is to cut that 3 years to, 3 months or whatever, to skip all of the learn by trial and error shit.
How often I don't know how quickly you can do that because well, for me, like, I was as you were saying, it took you 3 years, I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't feel so bad that I'm 2.5 years into it now and trying to finally close my door." But, I think you're right. We've talked in this session today about how you have to go through the experiences of it, and that's how you learn how to change them. So we do, so I just like to, be patient and kind to myself, kind and give myself some grace over that, when I am like, "Oh my gosh, these people are watching this channel and I'm still, struggling or whatever." But that's what we do. And like you said, we keep coming back, right? We just
That's
keep coming back.
Yeah, never quit quitting. I mean, you're on the right path. You know that everything we've talked about, if you're listening and being honest, that everything we're talking about and Cammy's divulging is true of your life. That like it was just back and forth, that you will get there. I mean, I don't even think there's even one of our coaches that showed up one day and the next day they never had sugar again in their life. That person, I've yet to meet that person. That doesn't really exist. When the awareness is there. Maybe they did when they finally got to us, they'd already been back and forth for a year, so whatever. But
Yeah. Or, it might be possible to, I don't know if it's possible to say, for instance, you don't deal with your emotions. You just deal with the physical part of it. Especially like, I don't know, if you're a man, I don't know. I think women are special.
well,
I
I
think,
get
I think our hormones circling and we're nurturers, right? Our job is to nurture Mother Nature. Look at that, and that as nurturers, as opposed to being like the hunter and gatherer, you get a little more emotional with things. I don't know. That could be a whole different
well, I
story.
mean, you know that 95% of our clients are women of a certain age here and, 50 and above. Uh, it's I think that they, do have the gift of the ability to have friendships, honest, genuine friendships and support from other women, which men don't have. So I think that's a big leg up. Also, I think they use sugar more than they use alcohol or other substances just through training and whatever. So it ends up in a kind of a women's kind of movement right this moment. Hopefully we'll get it to the men.
Yeah, because I have noticed in some of the people that are coming in through the meetings that there's some men coming in, through the 30-day challenge and things in our sugar addiction meetings. So that's been really nice to see
I like
and
it too.
relate to them. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. This has been great. And I need you to come down to California with a lot of cement, big old truck to put on my door. And I'm going to be thinking about that, figuratively.
Yeah, no, your back door's definitely closed. It takes a while to get to that place. It really just takes a while to even get it out of your subconscious into your conscious, and that's a big step, so congrats.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Alrighty.
Thanks, Mike. Take good care. Bye.